I'm not actually following. I'm not actually following.
Most people didn't have storage. By the time you have storage, he bought storage.
Oh.
I thought you bought it just for
Wow. So you'd have to download it if you wanted to save it.
You're not supposed to download it.
You're not supposed to. That's the point. What is it, like Snapchat or something? You see it and then it's gone.
It's just supposed to be like, it's like a,
Live in the moment kind of.
Live in the moment.
it's like,
Don't try and capture something.
you can remember death. So it's like,
Okay.
like a lesson about how, like you have to,
Like everything else is captured in your lifetime, like even this conversation is captured and posted on YouTube that would have subscribers, and sometimes no. I know. It's like, will you game in college classes? I'm sure students do. Yeah. Yeah, it's dangerous to game while you're trying to get an education because gaming is a lot more fun than some of those other choices. Yeah. My favorite games, I learned long ago, do not try and get into like Civilization because I was very big into Civ. I haven't gotten into Civ 6 for a while. And it's like, one more turn, one more turn, one more turn. Everything else just disappears, sleep. Yeah. Oh, by the way, we are recording. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Have attention, please. All quiet, please. Thank you. Go ahead, have out your notes. We're going to continue on with the Irish War of Independence. Yes. And I'm actually going to see you guys on Wednesday, which is good because then I will be able to continue, not feel as like pressured. And you're like, so what? Tuesday, the blue group, I don't actually see them in here because of the PSATs. So I've got some video things that I didn't quite get to with them that they're going to be watching at home, as well as the at-home viewers. And then I think I'll be able to show those in class. There's like some Irish music that is associated with the Irish War of Independence, song about the Black and Tans and so forth. And then there's a 3-minute history, which of course is like 4.5 minutes. And then there's another one that's like 13 or 14 minutes, like, yeah. And I mean, it's packed with stuff. Well, I mean, it's like, it's a big deal. It's like, oh, England and Ireland got upset at each other the other day. No. It's a little bit more complicated. It's kind of like if you run into something, you're like, wow, you don't seem to like that person. Can you tell me why? And they're like, do you have a day? You know? It's like, so. And then, of course, the next day you come along and you're like, wow, you seem to be getting along. It's like, yeah. So, I mean, there's good news. You can write this down. You ready? In Ireland, eventually, there's good news. I didn't think it would be that way when I started teaching because they were still killing each other. Not everybody, but there were enough people killing each other in that part of the world, but it's gotten a lot better, so we'll be able to actually extrapolate on that. Yes?
I'm still looking things on if the schedule will look right
On
on Tuesday.
Tuesday, our first question. Okay, so Monday is the Monday weird thing and so forth, whatever. So look for, I'm trying to find things and if they fit into what I'm doing and so forth as far as video, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think you're supposed to have, like, Zooming on Monday, are you? No, but I mean, it's like for the office hour thing. Yeah, I had one person, like, connect. But I mean, that's like, so you have extra stuff that's sort of like sent to you to do on Monday. So Tuesday, how many of you guys are doing the PSAT? If you're doing the PSAT, you come here whatever time, like real early. Okay? What? Yeah, normal time. Yeah. No, listen, we're explaining Tuesday, the PSAT day. Okay, if you're not taking the PSAT, you stay home. Okay? And as far as like, I would say, listen, pay attention to like your 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th period classes. As far as what they're doing, if they're required to zoom in, whatever, that's fine. I've not required that for the zoom in and so forth because I think there's a lot of value in students, almost without exception. You guys that are coming in here prefer not to have to do that when you're on your non-in day, in other words, the blue day. So if you're coming in for the PSAT, you do the PSAT, and then for goodness sakes, please have arrangements to go home. Okay, because otherwise you'll be going to your 5th period class, your 6th period class, your 7th period class, your 8th period class, and let me see, I don't know any other way to put it, but the teacher will be there babysitting you. Okay? I mean, they're not going to be actually necessarily having the class. I don't think so. Okay? Does that make sense? So, and you guys are 11th graders, you've got like access to transportation, unlike maybe some of the 10th graders or 9th graders that are taking the PSAT. Okay, does that kind of make sense? So then the weird thing is then on the green day, which you actually do show up, it'll be a little different. So for example, I'm looking at that for 11th grade, I'm like, okay, I don't need to feel quite as rushed with you guys today because I've got some extra time. And we'll be able to do some of the videos in class and so forth. Did that help answer? Okay. Otherwise, if you're not taking the PSAT, stay home. I mean, that's it. Yeah, stay home. Yeah. Tuesday, you already stay home anyway because it's a blue day. Talk to them. Okay. All right. Other questions? Okay. Some of you guys are paying very close attention to and you've asked questions relative to your grades. Power School is that really interesting thing that tells you like your current grade. Right? So if you look and it tells you like the percentage, so this is a very important thing. If you look at your grade and your percentage is like just below where you'd like it to be, like in the high B range and you like to be in A or the high C range, you like to be B and so forth. In my class, that's where Google Classroom comes in. Look at Google Classroom. There's a variety of different extra, I want to say extra credit opportunities or like retake opportunities and so forth. Some of you guys have availed yourself of that. I graded a whole bunch for different students. Sometimes it helps bring them up to to the next one, which is good. Other times it's like, it's not quite enough because they were already starting like at, an 80 or 81, and it's kind of hard to do enough extra credit to bump it up to that. So lesson learned, just make sure, going into the next semester, you come in fully prepared for these tests because I've got lots of details, don't I now? Yes. And then when I give you like big things like IA, don't go IA, oh, I got 1 hour to do an IA first draft for Mr. Hansen to turn in. Okay? So I know who you are because I get these things and I'm like, I could expect better from you. And I will. In fact, I think I already told you guys, like of the ones there, I think about 25% I'm going to be handing back to students and saying, you're missing like a big key thing, like a whole section 3 here. Or do you know what a citation is? I can't really tell you if you're doing your citations correctly if you don't even do one. So I'll be actually asking for a number of students to do sort of a remedial thing to give me a better version, and then I'll read that, and then we'll set up a time to give you feedback. Because I only get one time to give you like specific feedback on your paper. And so I want to actually be able to have a decent paper to look at to give you feedback on, okay? So, and we've got time because we'll get that process started early in next semester, which is next week, right? Okay? So do you guys kind of see kind of where things are at on that? Yeah?
Are you going to put any more assignments until, like between the end of the semester? Are there any more assignments?
No, I think there's like, I've got a one here which is like an extra credit thing, the feedback form. So that's 5 points. That's nice. So if somebody's like literally like within a percentage point of the next highest grade, this might actually bump it over. Yeah, it might. Check and see. The one nice thing is the school told us, the teachers, that we have until the latter part of next week to get the grades finalized. I'm like, well, that's cool. I will take some of that and give students an opportunity. So if a student, even after that opportunity, and they haven't done any extra credit or any of the retake things and so forth, and they're still like a little bit short of the grade there, I'm like, wow, that's where it is. So look at that. So some of those, some of the retake things on Google Classroom, it's kind of a point here or a point there. Probably the biggest thing, which I got like right here, I've gotten some students, for example, that have done like the essay things, because those are several points. And that might help if somebody is like within shooting range. Does that make sense? Okay. I don't think it's gonna. No, it's not gonna go down. Yeah, if you're like a 90 or an 80, I don't think there's nothing in there that's gonna make it go down. No, that's a very important question. Are you guys having a test in here today? Do you have an assessment in any of your other classes today? Good luck. Good luck. Hope that goes well for you. I hope it goes well. Yeah, because that's probably a pretty decent sized grade, isn't it? Yeah. I hope it goes well. All right, other questions, comments? Okay. Oh, yeah. Some of you guys, some students are asking, because I only just yesterday got my color cartridge. So this afternoon, I like that. My color cartridge still isn't very good. So, in fact, let me look and see. It's all right. The color was a little bit better on the other one. But there we go. We got a final date on that. And then we'll get this one up here. There's Joe. You know what? I'm not going to ask that question. If you want to talk to my wife, you're welcome to do that. Because she did a really nice job putting all these things together and so forth. I'm like, honey, can you design a such and such? So we've got like, and you'll see this up on the wall. We've got, here we go, presidents of the United States. So we got like a clarifying thing there. Woo, woo. And then we got presidents of Congress, right? So, I'm literally going to have to take that off. Going to have to cut the tape between the things and rearrange and and move stuff over there, And here we go, there we go. John Hanson's going to be, yeah. John Hanson. I was like, there was two pictures. One of them looked really dorky. Anyway, sorry. But, yeah. And then there's this one, which is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the other 7 presidents of the United States. Congress, they really had no power. Although there's a couple, John Hancock, you might remember he like headed up the Second Continental Congress. He was the head of Congress under the Articles of Confederation. For Richard Henry Lee, he was the one that proposed independence as a representative from Virginia. He was the one, if you guys remember the musical 1776? He had the dorkiest role of them all, I think. Was he? My name is Richard Henry Lee. Virginia is my name. Yeah, he did. And he was the one who always threw Dorca Lee, And anyway, he just thought that was like the little adverb. Anyway, so those are going up. Some of you guys, literally some of the students are like, Mr. Hanson, the election's already been done. The inauguration's already been done. Where's Biden? I'm like, the printer, the color printer cartridge needed to be replaced. So we got that. So there it is. And it'll be symmetrical, which is the most important thing, I think, in many people's minds. They're like, I don't care who wins and so forth. Literally, there was probably some people in mind going, I hope Trump wins because then Mr. Hanson doesn't have to mess with his thing. And other people are going, no, I hope Trump doesn't win, but I sure wish Mr. Hanson will figure out a way to keep it symmetrical. Because, I've already asked. I already suggested. I could have just, pushed Uncle Reed over a little bit to the right and stuck Biden there. And I think people would have just walked in here and fallen on the floor. It would have been terrible. Okay, all right. Well, that's not the most extreme reaction I think that potentially could come, but yeah. Okay, I'm going to a different skull. It's Mr. Hanson's wall. His presidents are all messed up. Oh my gosh. So I didn't have to change the thing. People have their reasons. All right, let's go ahead and do the pledge. I wouldn't have been here. 4 years? No. All right, ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, all right. This is worth 5 points. It's extra 5 points, okay? So it can only raise the overall percentage there. Yeah, he's going to have nightmares. He's going to walk into school, and every single one of his grade is going to drop below that thing. Well, everybody does, maybe. I don't know. Okay. All right, so we didn't get a chance to do this at the end of last semester, so, and it's kind of like, I really do appreciate being a teacher of everybody and so forth, and I like the feedback. And honestly, I like students feeling comfortable if there's something that's going well and they're don't want to feel like they're, sucking up or anything, that they share that at some point. And also, if students are finding something's not quite working for them, I like it when students feel comfortable enough to share it when it is taking place. As in could you move that test to such and such? Or could you do such and such and such and such? And yeah. But in any event, this is to solicit any of those sort of hanging on opinions and so forth and feedback. To be honest, I have to kind of evaluate as I go through and be like a self-critic as I've gone through. And student opinion is probably then the next most important thing besides self-evaluation as far as helping with the course and things like that. And also knowing, and you probably heard this before, I mean, all of you guys learn things different ways. Some things work for some students, some things work for others. Our goal as a teacher is to try and hit as many of you guys as possible, given that there's different goals. And you guys all have different, I would say especially like this junior class, has got different goals as far as what they want in their education here at North Star. I mean, it's quite varied, I would say, at this point. So, this is your opportunity for the feedback form. It's worth 5 points. You write your name, you write the course. If you're like, I don't know what to say, you can do a drawing, right? It's okay to do a drawing, you cheeky monkey. Right? I like to do drawings. Remember that? Didn't I show you that Simon video with Mike Myers? God. Yeah, it was funny. Cheeky monkey. Anyway. So, yeah. We'll give you an opportunity. This won't take too long. Go ahead, write something. Draw something. If you what? If you insult me, make sure that you... Yes, you just write, name of student Garrett. Yeah, anyway, yeah. And then he'll get the 5 points and my scorn. Yeah. No, don't put Garen's name on there. I'm joking. 11th grade IB history. Yep. That is, yeah. And then after that, hopefully, yeah, there you go. Let's be encouraging, yeah. We think you're a good prospect for graduation. What? It's not. It's 2021 now. Okay. Well, we're only just halfway through a month, just 2/3 through a month. I'm hopeful you won't be wearing masks in class this time next year. Hope so. I think it'll be tough because I think some people will be people are already anxious for a recovery, but they'll have to be patient because some of the steps aren't quite there. I mean, I got my shot, but, and then I'll get another one like in just over 2 weeks. So that's good, and then eventually more and more people are going to have that. And so the potential of spreading COVID in the community will go way down. Oh my gosh, yeah. Thank you very much. Lovely. It's got a flower. It's pretty. Some of you guys have color markers, and then you color them in. You do,
How dare you be funnier than me? How dare you?
Oh,
He's funnier than me.
that's good. Well, you set such a high bar
Yeah, I know.
for funny.
I know.
Okay.
Fail on funny.
It's like I've got one more idea to put down. No? Oh, you're done? Okay. All right, thank you. Because as soon as I get a couple more, we're going to get into Ireland. Get back to Ireland. Why is there such conflict in Ireland? Yeah, that's right. Well, because some of the British moved in, and they're in your neighborhood, right? I mean, if the other is over there, that's one thing. But if the other is right next door, ooh, that's another other thing. That's why this country would not do very well with the Civil War, because we're like all mixed in. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's like when we get, because this unit, we're going to get to the Spanish Civil War. That's a very good example in history of like, don't go there. Because there were just so many people that were like killed. You look around and you're like, I don't think I'm going to do very well. I mean, I heard some people joking, after the last election going, I think I need to move to, depending on who they are, Idaho or away from Idaho, Although, or there are certain pockets of Idaho that are more comfortable, say, for example, Democrats. If you're a Democrat in Idaho, where would be the most comfortable? Yeah, Boise, yeah. If you, or, Haley, Sun Valley. If you were a, Republican and you were, if you weren't living in Idaho, where would you feel uncomfortable and so forth? Yeah, maybe, yeah. Parts of California, parts. So it's like, yeah, get over yourselves. Hello, we're all one country. We can be. We can be. We should be. Yeah. I mean, it's like,
That doesn't mean that some states may have better, opportunities than others.
yeah, it's an interesting thing. And I would say like Idaho, I mean, certain parts of the country I think have become more homogenous in certain things. Like Idaho used to be more balanced as far as Republicans and Democrats,
Yeah.
but it's less so now. And I think part of that is actually because people who've moved into Idaho from California, people are like, oh, they're coming from California, they must be liberal like Californians. No, actually, yeah. They're coming to Idaho because they want to be perhaps in a community that's more aligned with their thinking and their cultural and so forth and so on. So you get that. And if you're in Idaho and you're like, oh my gosh, it's just like so conservative, you move to Portland, Seattle, California, so forth. You're like, I want to be, I want to actually vote for people who win, because, yeah, no, I mean, that totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. So, but, fortunately, there's a lot of things like who are we going to root for in the Olympic Games if we have them? USA! I mean, it's like really bad. I always felt bad when I was a little kid because, watching the Olympic Games, and those are like really rally around the flag. And I'm like, but I like those Russian, athletes. They seem really nice. They've got really nice backstories. They're Russians. They're like full of steroids. Anyway, sometimes they are, but sometimes they were, yeah. I'm part of the East German swimming team. Yeah. Yes. What's that? Yes. Okay, so you guys ready? All right, let's get to it. We're looking at the history. Yes? Oh, you got one too. Okay. Grazie. Ooh, lovely drawings. Okay. Here we go. Where last we left off, Ireland is sort of part of Britain, right? You've got this, this King of England who is exercising some authority over Ireland with some degree of success. And it helps, let's go to 1500s, okay? Up to 1500s. We got all the people pretty much arrived, although we will have more people arriving in different areas. We've got the original Celtic people, right? And you got some Romans moving in, but mostly you got Germanic people. Danton, where are the Germanic people going to be primarily located in the British Isles?
The north part.
Nope. The Angles and the Saxons, hint, hint. Angles. Yeah, England, yeah. So England is going to have more of that Germanic thing. Throw in some Danes and Scandinavian Vikings and so forth and so on. But the main Celtic areas, where are the main Celtic areas? Ireland is going to be very Celtic. Scotland is a Celtic, and then Wales. Okay, those are like original Celtic ones. So, and you get all kinds of fighting and this and that and so forth. I think there's was it Netflix? I've been watching several seasons of. Have you guys into The Last Kingdom? It's really interesting because it's based on history fighting of Anglo-Saxon kings. This is before the Norman invasion, so this is well over 1,000 years ago, where they're kind of fighting each other in Wessex and Sussex and Essex, and anyway, it's all this. But eventually, make sure you have this down, England establishes itself as the predominant kingdom. To be king of England is more important than, say, to be king of Scotland. Sorry, And eventually, the poor Welsh kings are going to be, killed off. You guys seen Braveheart? William Wallace. This is like set for about, it's like set about 1,000 years ago. Yeah, have you heard that? Anyway, there's a movie about William Wallace, and he's trying to fight for Scottish independence, and they will remain, fairly independent all the way up until like after Queen Elizabeth. Henry VIII dies when Queen Elizabeth eventually comes in, and then when she dies, who inherits the throne from her? Let me see. Queen Elizabeth, she had no kids. She was the Virgin Queen. Her cousin's son, King of Scotland, becomes King of England. And then the two begin to unite. All right, so let's look at a key event, though, here. You ready? In the 1500s, Henry VIII. You know about Henry VIII. Aiden, what do you know about Henry VIII of England in the 1500s? So tell me about his married life. Tell me something you know about his married life. Oh, hands go up here all over the place. They're like, I don't know about King Henry VIII. Yeah, thinking of even numbers. 6 is a number associated with him. Exactly, 6 wives. Okay? Exactly. No. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. That's the ditty. Right? So the first one was probably the most consequential. Because he was married, he had a daughter. That's cool, remember? He had a daughter. That's cool. Right? Everyone cool with like a woman being the head of a country? Are you guys okay with that? Because we're a heartbeat away from, in this country, a woman in the top executive position. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with that? Are you going to be like Are you going to be like back in the time of Henry VIII? And they're like, hey, Henry, come on, have a son already. Like, right? Henry VIII, right? Henry VIII wanted a divorce from his first wife because she had a daughter and they weren't having any more kids, right? So, was he able to divorce his first wife? You remember that? Was he able to divorce his first wife? Initially, oh, yes? You know this because you're writing about this.
No.
You're writing about 2 of the 6 marriages for your IRA. No. Why not?
Because the church is like, no, you're not going to get divorced.
And actually, and this is a very practical thing, because the family that his first wife was from was like the most powerful royal family in Europe, the Habsburgs. And the Pope had already gotten in a bit of a tangle with the Habsburgs before, and they responded because he took sides in like a war between the Habsburgs and the French royal family, and the Pope did favor the French, and the Habsburgs didn't like it, so they sacked Rome. Some of you guys may remember that from the 9th grade. So the Pope is pretty sensitive to let me see, who am I not going to try and upset these days? The Habsburgs, as in Henry VIII's first wife's family. So they told him no. Did Henry VIII take no as a final answer?
No, of course not.
No, so what did he do? Along with his noble buddies in Parliament that wanted him to be able to have a legitimate boy from a woman who was married to him as opposed to all the other children that he was having with other women. Yes? They changed the law. What law did they change? Exactly. This is the first time. Write this down. This is the first time in English history, and therefore British history, where you have a Protestant church. Okay? And the Protestant church is known as the Church of England, also known as the Anglican Church. Therefore, is it Catholic? No. Who is the head of the Church of England after they changed the law there? King Henry VIII. Yeah, so he was able to give himself a divorce, marry his second wife, Anne Boleyn, and she did deliver a child to him, a girl, Elizabeth, and then he had her executed on really stupid evidence, and then he finally got a son from his third wife. It is messed up, yeah. But I mean, here's the deal, and this is where things kind of go along. Put this down. Some people, not everyone was thrilled with that. Like Henry VIII was happy, and nobles were happy because he's like, now he's got wives and so forth. But some people are not happy. Write this down. One group of Protestants in that area wasn't happy because they're like, you call this a real Protestant church? You're not Catholic, but what's changed?
Divorce.
That's it. Okay? And there was another thing. Do you guys remember, as far as like substantive differences between the Anglican Church, Church of England, and the Catholic Church? What was a substantive difference besides the king is the head of the Anglican Church as opposed to the Pope is the head of the Catholic Church? There was one other thing that's sort of substantive. Yeah? Exactly. Yeah, within the Catholic Church, you couldn't get a priest get married within Henry VIII's church, then priests were able to get married. But as far as all the other stuff, it was very, very similar. So if you had some Protestants popping around in Britain, like Puritans and so forth, they're like, you call that a Protestant church? That's not Protestant. So they weren't happy with it. Put this down as well. Catholics weren't very happy with it. And this is going to be significant. Okay? You're going to have Catholics in England, and Catholics, especially in Ireland, are not happy with what Henry VIII and the nobles did, because they're loyal to Catholicism. Okay? And think of this. That religious identification is going to be a rallying point for Irish for many, 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 many years. They'll be like, we're Catholic. Of course. We're not that English religion. So that's going to be one of those sort of dividing points. And as we go further on this, we'll see it's not just that religious difference, because it's like, you go to Mass or you don't go to Mass. You're Catholic or you're not a Catholic. There's other stuff, and some of that is going to be even more profound. In fact, put that down, because we'll see it. Economic differences. The Irish in Ireland are going to become more poor economically over the coming centuries. Do you understand that? Well, then who is going to have wealth in Ireland? Newer arrivals. Yeah, literally, it's like, can England be in Ireland? How can England be in Ireland? It's kind of like, how can Europe be in America? Europeans arrive in America. Yeah, it's like in North America, which is going to be predominant? The native population that was there originally, or the mostly European immigrant population that's going to come in and dominate? Yeah, exactly that. So here's what's going to happen over the years. There's going to be resentment, and at various different times, write this down, resentment in Ireland against what's going on in England having to do with religion. What will the kings of England do? They'll send in troops. They'll send in troops. I think King Henry VIII had to send in troops. There will be other kings, rulers of England, that will send in troops. In the 1600s, English history is like full of all kinds of stuff, but 1600s, maybe you remember Oliver Cromwell, leader of the Parliament, got into a fight with King Charles I, who tried to arrest all the members of the Parliament, and then they had this big, massive English Civil War. King lost his head. Actually lost his head. And Oliver Cromwell was the ruler of Britain, and he was Puritan. He was Protestant. Oh, they hated him over in Ireland. And he sent armies over to Ireland to crush them. And he also came up with a plan that's going to be used by other monarchs and so forth. Write this down. You can figure this out. What is one way to not have to deal with continual insurrection on the part of a population? You're like, let me see. What would Stalin do? Yeah. What? WWSD. Yeah, what would Stalin do? He'd kill him. Yeah. What would Jackson do, President Jackson, if he was dealing with potential insurrection on the part of native populations that didn't like the arrival of all of these European immigrants? Yeah, he'd send them on the Trail of Tears to Oklahoma, What would American leaders and so forth do? I mean, you can be like, the real strong thing is kill them. I mean, that's a Stalin solution. But the other thing, write this down, is move your own people in there. Write it down. And this is where people in Ireland look and going, we're being colonized. There's some truth to that. We're being colonized like we're being treated like Native Americans. And the English, write it down, the English and the Scottish are being moved in. They're being encouraged to move into Ireland. Because are English and Scottish citizens more loyal to the English crown? Yes. Okay? They are. And let's just go ahead and identify really clearly how this plays out. Guess which part of Ireland saw the greatest influx of Scottish and English Protestant immigrants, settlers? Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, the north. And so if you look on the north, you'll have a big amount of heritage. It becomes, in some places, almost completely Protestant. Got that? Okay, put that down. Because that's actually going to be a reality to places. But probably one that's maybe not as clear looking at the map is, you're also going to have land being handed over to new English, some Scottish settlers, and the land is taken away from the original Irish. Write that down. So this is going to be, it's going to take place over time, and the Irish are really going to resent this because, I mean, hello, I used to have land. I could farm on the land. Now I don't have land, but I'm still here. What is going to happen to most of the Irish population? What are they going to become? Poor. Their job is to be tenant farmers. Many of them are going to be tenant farmers in Ireland on land owned by, they would call them outsiders. You got that? So they hate that. They resent that. Is that a policy that's supported by the English Crown and the English Parliament? Yes, it is. I mean, it's kind of like, look at the early presidents of the United States and the Congresses around there. Did they support the spreading of European arrivals into the Americas at the expense of native populations? Manifest destiny, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like, and Asians would come over. You guys remember this. Asians would come over and they're like, hey, we're here too. We're immigrants. Haha, yeah, we're from a long-standing civilization and so forth. Exactly, yeah. It's like build our railroads, dig our mines, and then go. I mean, so many of the people who came over as Chinese immigrants initially to this country were not able to actually stick around. I mean, Idaho still has remnants of names of places where the Chinese lived. Exactly, Chinden Boulevard. How many Chinese are still living along Chinden Boulevard, growing gardens in Garden City to feed the mining populations up in Idaho City? Yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah. But then they change the laws. They're like, I'm sorry, let's see your Chinese heritage. You can't hold a job. Wow. Okay. No job, no money, no food. Okay. All right. So one of the times it really got kind of squirrely, let's add this into it. One of the times it really got squirrely was, let me see, we got Charles I, got his head cut off, right? And then you got the Puritans, they're beaten up and so forth in there. And then eventually they bring in Charles II, Charles I's son. He's like, I'll be cool. And then his brother, James II, came on the throne. He's like, going to have a Catholic child that's going to take over for him. Some of you guys may remember that. Here you can put it. Late 1600s, there was the Glorious Revolution in Britain, where James II was literally kicked off the throne. Because it looks like his son, who was next in line, his baby son next in line, is going to be a Catholic, going to be a monarch, so they kick him off the throne. You remember that? Glorious Revolution. And it's glorious in the sense that the winners win, I mean, so they get to call it the Glorious Revolution, and there wasn't as much fighting back in Britain as a result of that. But put this down. When William and Mary came to the throne as part of the Glorious Revolution, there was a lot of resistance in Ireland, in the Catholic areas. This was another example. And William, let me see, William wasn't even from the family. Mary was the oldest daughter, of James II. So they're like, hey, yeah, she's Protestant, she's married to a Protestant, we'll put her on the throne. Forget about these Catholics. They're never going to get on the throne again. And have they actually had a Catholic on the throne of England ever since then? No. So the Catholics in Ireland didn't like it. So what did William do? He went over with his armies, and he was fighting against supporters of James II, who was trying to get back on the throne. And it was interesting because you see the flag of Ireland? Green, white, and orange. Green. How many of you guys associate the color green with Ireland? House Cup. What day in particular in the year? St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's Day. There you go. St. Patrick's Day. He was the guy, he was English originally, stolen by pirates, taken to Ireland, he escaped, and then he converted to Christianity, became a missionary, and went back to Ireland and converted the Irish population from Celtic religions and so forth to Christianity. Which form of Christianity? Catholic, yeah. So St. Patrick is an Irish Catholic saint, right? Green. Green is the color associated traditionally with Irish Catholicism. Orange is associated, you can write this down, make a note of this. I mean, it's an interesting thing because the flag tries to kind of bring them together, although you got the white. It's like no man's land anyway. But it's white. It's like be peaceful and so forth. In between, the orange is associated with Protestantism in Ireland. And specifically, you can date it back to the time of William. You're like, William? He's from England. He was originally from Netherlands. He was from the region known as Orange.
Really? The cultural
Exactly. I mean, I think that actually comes from it. What color are oranges? They're orange. What color are apples? They're apple. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. But Orange, William of Orange, is then the Protestant king of England who represses Catholic Irish resentment. And so what happens after that? They bring in more people. More people. It depends on who you're talking about. It's okay for the people who are there. Some of the people, they come into Northern Ireland and they're like, oh, we're not very welcome here. Let's just get on another boat and go to America. And they settle in places like Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina and stuff. One of the most famous families in literary history, Scarlett O'Hara. Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. They're Irish Protestant. They're called, sometimes referred to as Scots-Irish. If you ever look back in your heritage and so forth and you're like Scots-Irish, yeah, originally came from Scotland, yeah, hung around in Ireland for a while and you're like, this is difficult. And then you continued on into America. You're Protestant, okay? Are there going to be continually Protestants there? Yes, write it down. 1700s, you have this continual process of the Irish Catholics losing their position economically and the Protestants gaining more power. It goes into the 1800s, all right? Are things going to get better for the Irish Catholics in the 1800s? Well, here's one piece of good news. You ready? That whole thing where you're like, Europe is now connected to the Americas, the Columbian Exchange, right? You know, some parts of it work pretty good. Like there were some plants you could grow in the Americas, you know, put them on boats and bring them over to Europe and so forth, and just plant them in the ground. You don't have to keep importing it. You plant it in the ground, you feed yourself off of them. What are those? Potatoes. Write it down. Potatoes. Potatoes are awesome. The Germans love them. Germans can take potatoes. They can grow them just about anywhere, and you can make good recipes. I mean, you look at some of the best recipes in Europe and so forth. There's all these great potato recipes. I mean, potatoes, they're okay, you know, just like, you know, just eat them, cook them and eat them. You eat them raw? Wow, that's bold. And it's nutritious. Make sure you eat the skin. But, I mean, here's the deal with the potatoes. Some of you guys remember this. You put a whole bunch of potatoes in the ground, and you can grow a lot of food to feed a lot of people. What happens to the population of Europe as a result of, like, now relying more and more on potatoes for food? It goes up, exactly. Write this down. In Ireland, it really went up. In one sense, true, they over-relied on the potato as a food source. Exactly. In the 1840s, a disease, a blight, hit the potato crop in Ireland. Have you guys ever dug for potatoes? You ever dug that? Have you? What do you get when you dig for potatoes? What does it look like? What's the top part look like? Yeah, it's a plant. You're like, that's a potato plant. And then you dig your shovel in there, and what do you get? Now, how do they grow?
They grow underground like a root.
What do they grow from? How do you grow a potato?
You cut a piece of potato off of it and plant it.
Exactly. Yeah, those are called seed potatoes. You cut them, you put them in there, and they grow. I mean, if you've ever seen a potato that's like been left too long and starts to like sprout little eyes and stuff, it's ready to be planted. Not necessarily eaten, but yeah, it's like, yeah. My uncle, Reed, who was a potato farmer in the legislature, legislature is only supposed to be like January, February, March, and so forth. He would literally send a subtle message to his colleagues like, maybe we should start wrapping up because he needed to get back over to Idaho Falls to work on his fields. He would put a potato on his desk, and when it started sprouting, like, it was a subtle message to like, let's get this thing wrapped up because, you know, some of us got work to do. You know, if you're a farmer, the winter months are a little bit, anyway. So, but here's the problem. Write this down. In the 1840s, because of the potato blight, it literally was killing the crops. It was spreading amongst the potato. So instead of putting your shovel in the ground and pulling out some lovely taters to feed your family, you'd get mush. Really bad. And this happened several years. And if that is your food source, what do you do if your food source is gone? You starve. Now, here is where things get really difficult. Because, oh yeah, this is fine. Because, who's going to look after you? Does the government look after you? Like, is that kind of a thing in the middle of the 1800s for the government to step in? Is it a thing now if things are difficult and so forth, the government to send you a stimulus check or give you some unemployment and so forth? The English government was like, no, we don't know what to do. Rely on charity. Well, all the charities are like starving too. So put this down. The Irish Catholic population is going to be very resentful because no one's going to be helping them as far as the government's concerned. Those English, period. And they're going to be starving. Hundreds of thousands, I want to say millions ultimately die. Many others manage to get on boats and make their way to America, Canada, and Australia and so forth. So there's going to be resentment. It's not World War II now. So among the Irish who survived, they're going to be like, could we get, like, some of them are going to ask for independence, some are going to ask for home rule, a little bit more autonomy. Next time, we will tell you how it played out. But we were able to today, like, expand on it a little bit more. Next time, we'll actually get to the events leading up to, boom, the Irish War of Independence. And we know who's going to win the Irish War of Independence. Yeah. Mostly. It's complicated. Yeah. Because you're going to get like two parts. And some people are like, yay, and other people are going to be like, not good enough. And we'll have a civil war in Ireland then. So anyway, we'll wrap up this next time.